Okay. Well, I see
Phew.
one of us dressed up festively for the season.
Nice. I do have lights behind me,
Oh,
just
nice.
not
Really?
on me.
Yeah, I opted for the blue couch, and I haven't put these on the tree yet. So I was like, why not?
Yeah. Tis
So
the season. Tis the season.
it's great to finally see you in person and talk to you.
Hmm.
And I have
Yeah, same.
prepared a very elaborate and expensive visual aid to show the folks
Oh.
at home. First of all, I'm with Sarah Daly, and this is Make Your Own Fun. I prepared the very expensive and very elaborate visual aid to show the
I'm
folks at
honored.
home how international our conversation is. So sit
Hmm.
back
Hmm.
because this is going to blow your mind. Okay, you ready?
Well, okay, okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So you can feel free to correct me as I go through this here. So
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
very elaborate. So you are from Ireland, correct?
I am indeed, yes.
Currently, geez, can I even say this? Currently living and working in Scotland.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I am here near Los Angeles, California. And I'm originally from here in Ohio by the Great Lakes, which is why I sound like I'm from Canada. Um, and I believe all of our wonderful products that we're using to communicate are probably made in China.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I wish I could say
Chances
that
are.
there was more to that, but that's all I have.
I think that's more than enough of that.
As I choke myself with burning lights. So yeah, welcome to the show. And I wanted to pick your brain for a while.
Sure.
I really immersed myself this week in a lot of the Hex Media films, and wow, you guys are really onto something. I'm so impressed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I have to ask, going back, to school and to your initial like falling in love with film and with writing, what kind of
Hmm.
got you interested in that kind of stuff?
Well, I guess I've always loved writing since I was little. Like I used to write fantasy stories, elves and fairies and other worlds, and I always loved things like The Never-Ending Story and Alice in Wonderland. Um, so I knew that I wanted to do something creative, or at least that was my dream. Then when it came to choosing what I would study in university, it was more a case of I knew all of the things I didn't want to do. um, and that sort of left me with, it was quite a general course called Media Arts that basically covered a lot of bases. So it was film, radio, TV, photography, a little bit of everything media, which was good because I really at that point did not know what I wanted to do. And honestly, I didn't enjoy a lot of it. Like I didn't really enjoy the technical aspects so much. And it was only really in the final year when we were able to choose a specialization. And I chose script writing that I sort of felt, oh, okay, this is something I feel I can do. This is something I enjoy. And it was really from there that I sort of decided that this was at least what I was going to try to do with my life.
That's great. That's great. Being a fellow screenwriter, I've watched, countless documentaries with filmmakers. And this is a bad example, but one that always comes back to me was one with George Lucas a few years ago, where he said like, "Oh, I'm a terrible writer. I'll just write the dialogue, and then whenever I have to write an action, I just write they fight, and then I'll call in the choreographer." And I just so he's probably right now somewhere drinking a Coke Zero while someone irons his entire closet of blue flannel shirts. But it made me think though, because um, especially with you working so closely in collaboration with the same director over a number of
Mhm.
years, you guys have got to be simpatico and kind of understand like I'm going to write this, I'm going to write the dialogue, I'm going to, flesh out the characters. But at a certain
Hmm.
point, we've got to figure out how to frame the shots. We've got to figure out the lighting. We've got to figure out costumes. We've got
Yeah.
to figure out all that other stuff. But the thing that keeps bringing me back to that George Lucas quote is, as laughable as it is, there really is that element of, well, we're here, we have everything set up, so now they fight.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
have
I
to
think.
have that other, or I don't know if you guys use a fight choreographer or anything for
Mhm.
your films. But yeah, it's just so weird because I also write, poetry and short stories. So for
Mhm.
screenwriting, there's that collaborative part of it where
Yeah.
you just have to not kill your babies, but kind of just
Mhm.
give it over in good faith
Yeah.
to that other collaborator and just really
Yeah.
hope, like, I hope that this makes sense when they get on the other side of it, of they fight to they talk again.
Yes. Yeah. It's always a balance between protecting the important elements of your story, like knowing the parts that you really want to fight for, but also being aware of your own limitations. So, um, and a fight scene is a good example. Like I'll usually write some sort of action lines for a fight scene, but I know that that's not my forte, and I know that whoever we bring in to do the choreography, or even if it's Laurie as a director, he's got a much better visual mind for that kind of thing. So I'll put something in almost as the placeholder, but I'll always be aware that probably someone else who's more into that kind of thing is going to do a better job than I would ever do of writing it. And that it's always different on the day than it is in your mind too. That the environment's probably going to be different. The actors you get might have different skills that you want to utilize. I think it's always important to, as a writer and as a director, to leave room for other people to bring their particular skills to the table, because I think that's how you make something more than the sum of its parts. And it's also, especially in the independent world, how you can create something that is better than it probably should be for its budget.
Right. And there's also the element of what I call expectation versus reality, where a script
Hmm.
is words on a page and it could be beautiful, Academy nominated worthy script, but the reality is you're there on the day and maybe you have this scene that takes place a beautiful, because your films often have picnics by the seaside, which are just
Yeah.
like, and I thought, like, I've never been to Scotland, but I thought they really had to pick and choose and just really watch the weather report like a hawk,
Mm,
because I
yeah.
can't imagine that you have like a string of sunny days.
No.
So I thought
Yeah.
they probably were like, okay, we've got the picnic scene sequence, scheduled for this day or this week. But if that
Yeah.
doesn't happen, let's have like one or two other things we can go back to, the house we rented or something in the ruins to film, or the beautiful landscape, because clouds are going to come in. And that's just the reality of it. And you might have
Yeah.
to alter or change things. So
Hmm.
that's just the fun.
Yeah. It's part of the fun and part of the pain of film production, whatever budget level you're at as well. No matter how much money you have, you can't control the weather. So, yeah, that's always probably the trickiest part of production, especially in Scotland, obviously, where we have a lot of rain, a lot of rain, and wind almost worse. Um, so yeah, you have to be flexible, and I think it kind of helps that I tend to be the writer but also production manager, so I do the schedules, and I'm sort of on top of what we shoot every day, so I'm sort of able to move things around or think of clever solutions to issues that we face so that we can make sure we still
Oh,
get
okay.
everything we
So
need
you
to, if
were,
not necessarily in the right order.
so you're on set every day, basically, you're saying. Are
Mhm.
you also like the production manager or on set producer?
Yeah,
Okay.
basically I kind of take charge of most of the logistical elements. On independent productions, everyone has to wear a lot of hats. So yeah, I tend to be the organizational person.
That's
of
great. I mean,
most
to have
things.
that kind of mind, analytical mind, as well as a creative mind, is kind of a rare find in the entertainment business. So I guess what I was going to ask, what led into kind of your first foray, 10 or 15 years ago with the short films and how that came together? I mean, are you still utilizing a lot of the same cast and crew from those early days of short films in the features?
um, yeah, quite a few people. Yeah, have stuck by us. Like we tend to try to make things in a sort of family environment, where we utilize a lot of the same actors, a lot of the same crew, and bring them along with us for the journey. Um, there's always going to be some people that fall away because the creative life is not an easy life, and it involves sacrifices. You don't really get to keep pace with your peers in terms of the sort of traditional signifiers of success. So it's not for everyone, but we've been very lucky that that we've had a lot of people stick by us, and um, it's part of the fun being able to create things with your friends, really. So it's difficult, but it's also fun because it feels like you're creating things together, and you
Team
can
effort, yeah.
have a laugh. Like I've been on shoots before where it is very much just a lot more corporate. People are there for hire, they don't really know each other, it's just a 3-week job and then they're gone.
Yeah, I
And it's
call
not
them,
this it's not the same.
I call those a day at the office kind of thing.
Yeah, then
Where
I
it's
don't I
like,
don't really
well,
understand the appeal
got
of
to pay
that.
the bills,
Yeah, but like there's so many better ways to pay the bills. Like it's
right?
hard work, it's
Especially,
really hard.
I think everybody's been kind of learning like the last 2 years with COVID and like lockdown and staying at home. And like for example, last year made a short film where everything was done through Zoom because it was lockdown.
Nice.
People couldn't leave. They had to use their own clothes as costumes and their own
Yeah.
things in their house as a prop. We did a murder mystery short film, just using all the different brackets for the suspects, little
Sweet.
7 minute thing, and
Mhm.
we got into some festivals. It was like because there was so much of a hunger and a desire for people to just anything,
Yeah.
any you know. So were you just kind of hunkered down last year just writing? I mean, were you able to film anything because you weren't able to go anywhere, right? To do anything location wise.
Well, we were actually, I mean, really lucky in that we did actually shoot a feature film um, last year, which was our most ambitious feature film yet, which sounds
So is
crazy,
that
but
the fantasy film that's coming out?
yeah, Dragon Knight. Um, so yeah,
Sorry, I
I'm
was
excited
raising the
for it.
roof for you, then my hands got tired.
Oh, thank you. The roof is raised. Uh, Basically,
That's
we
a huge
just
leap forward. I mean, no offense to what
yeah.
you guys did before, but this sound, um, using the same adjective over and over, it sounds like an epic of epic proportions. I don't.
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely the biggest thing that we've attempted, but it's also like using the culmination of a lot of things that we've learned over the years. But of course, COVID adds a huge extra level of difficulty and complication. But I think because we're independent, because we do things locally, we can be kind of nimble and flexible, that let us adapt to the circumstances. So um, we just basically changed a lot of things so that it would be possible to do in COVID times. Like 90% of the film is outdoors. We had a really tiny crew. Um, most Mostly we got everyone together on set outdoors rather than meeting in the studio first. So just taking every sort of mitigation that we possibly could to keep people safe, and thankfully, everything went really well. But yeah, it was not easy. I mean, making a film at any time is difficult, but making it during
So many
COVID,
restrictions. Yeah.
yeah, the restrictions, and just like, I mean, there in Scotland there weren't really any like legal requirements at that time for what you had to do um, in a workplace, but we obviously wanted to do everything that we possibly could in our power to keep people safe. So we sort of created really our own regime for that, because you know obviously you want to do everything that you can. But yeah, it was next level difficult shooting in, you know, November, December, outdoors in Scotland, a lot of night shoots. Yeah, I'm kind of amazed we all survived, to be honest.
Hey, but I mean, you came through the other side. That's the important thing. So take me back to, I'm guessing a little bit less than 10 years ago, um, when you knew or you decided that now was the time to make the jump from short films to features, how that came about, how you were able to because you can do short films for a certain amount of time with
Mhm.
favors and offering IMDb credit and free pizza and soda, whatever we have to do to bribe our friends to help us. But
Yep.
then when you're going to do a feature, you've got to pay the actors because that's like, maybe a month away from their day job or whatever they're doing for money, and being on a
Mhm.
location away from friends and family. So, how did you guys know that you were able to to get funding for the first feature? I'm not even sure what the first feature was.
Actually, it's kind of a crazy story. So we did not intend to make a feature, but a couple of things happened at the same time that just sort of spontaneously made us do it that we never expected. So the first thing was my brother bought me a DSLR for Christmas, Canon Rebel TTY, I think they're called over there. Um, and the second thing was that Scotland had this crazy winter where it snowed um, much more than usual. Like people would assume Scotland is full of snow all the time, not so much where we are. So like it was proper snow and it stayed for weeks and weeks. It was known as like total snow Armageddon. Um,
Snowmageddon, yeah.
Snowmageddon. So the whole country came to a standstill. Everything looked beautiful. So at the time, Laurie and I were living like in a little village, basically in Scotland, and we were really good friends with an actor who also lived in that same village. We all had nothing to do at the time. He was just working part time. We were doing corporate videos at the time, but there was nothing happening because of the snow. So we just decided, let's just go out there and with our DSLR into the snow and shoot a feature film because why not? That film is called Whiteout,
Whiteout.
and
Okay.
yeah, and it's sort of had a kind of a COVID spirit about it actually, in that maybe 60% of the film was shot locally, kind of guerrilla style with local actors. And then the other 40% was shot by people all over the world who were shooting basically video diaries talking about how this kind of apocalypse that was occurring across the world was affecting them. So it actually has quite an international feel to it, despite being such a tiny, tiny, tiny budget film. Um, so that's sort of how that came about, and it was very unexpected. But since making that first feature, we've just been able to continue making features, and it's down to a lot of luck, really, in that first instance.
How were you able to budget paying the actors and raising funds and renting locations and things like that starting from zero?
Well, we didn't. We just used free locations. It was a
Oh,
collaboration between us all. There was like literally 3 people on the crew, and we were all just sort of aspiring filmmakers at the time. He was an aspiring actor, so we just kind of we collaborated for each other's benefit. And I mean, the shoot altogether probably was about 8, 9 days. You know, it wasn't a big investment of time. We were able to shoot in our own houses, in other people's houses, and on the street. You know, so there was no
were
cost
you
involved
kind
really.
of known locally at the the apartments and things as like those kids making a movie kind of thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Usually it'd be taxi drivers would always be, oh, you're that guy that's always around with his camera.
That's great. That's
Yeah, that's
great.
us. We're the crazy kids. Yeah, like I remember even Laurie, like there's this quite sort of notorious local bar that quite hardened old Scotsmen go to. And I remember for one of the scenes, we kind of needed some like old guys with wizened faces to stand around in the street looking miserable. So Laurie just went into this pub and was like, "Hey, any of you guys want to be in a movie?"
You'd be surprised. So many people are like,
Yeah,
sure, I'm already
yeah,
drunk.
they're all up for
So
it. Yeah, they're all up for it. Like this is a pub that people are scared to go into, but
where they're like, can I just take my pint?
yeah, basically. Basically, but it looks great because it's authentic, and these are people you don't normally see
Authentically
in
drunk.
films.
Um, so moving on to, I guess, and this is going to freak you out, but moving on to the
Mm-mm.
next leap forward of, I guess, Lord of Tears.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, I mean, I've lived in LA on and off for about 19 years. And a few years ago, I saw these t-shirts and I didn't know what it was. And honestly, because of the design of the creature on the shirt, I just thought it was a band. And so I
Yeah, it has
didn't
that
ask
vibe.
questions at first. I was like, oh, that's some indie band, then, local or something. I haven't heard of it. But then I started to see it more and more. So just so you know, I was seeing Lord of Tears t-shirts here in LA before I even knew what it was, before I even knew
Wow.
it was a movie. I mean, so people either, I don't know if you guys had merchandise back in 2013 or 2014
Mm-hmm.
locally
Yeah.
in Scotland to buy or purchase online, but people went there and brought it back or they ordered it online. But that image and that title has been around for a while. And I don't mean this as a slag on you guys or anything, but I just thought it was a local indie film company here in LA. I just thought it's a
Mm-hmm.
movie. Okay, well, I'll get around to watching it one day. It's a horror movie. Okay. And I didn't even know until what was it, a few weeks ago when we started talking that you wrote that.
Oh wow. No,
I didn't
that's
even know.
crazy.
It's just this thing that's been in pop culture. I mean, not like something like you'd see like a famous, U2 or like Star Wars or just the Beatles or just something that's everywhere, but something enough that it was like, walking by a group of people and I
Huh.
see the shirt on a college campus or, at a mall or something and go, what is that? Lord of Tears. Like, what? Oh, it's probably some band. Maybe they opened for somebody local or something. So that has to make you feel good to know that it's really seeped into the culture. It's like
Yeah.
people who don't know, but people who know, oh, they get it
Yeah.
on a big level. Like I said,
Yeah.
like I messaged you and I said, oh, when the holidays are over and I'm not so brokish and my finances recover, I think I'm gonna order one too.
Yay, you can join the club, the elite club that knows what Lord of Tears is.
So have you been places outside of where you live and seen the merch and they don't know that you had anything to do with it? You see it and talk to anyone that has the
Yeah.
have you?
It
And
is,
they have no idea
yeah,
that
no,
you
it's
were involved or
honestly the most exciting, best part of what we do is when you very occasionally meet someone who's a fan, and you're able to talk to them. Like usually it'll be for us at film festivals that we'll meet people who, like, you'll see someone wearing a Lord of Tears t-shirt, and yeah, it's really cool to be able to say, hey, I made that, and then you can strike up a conversation, and it's just really nice to know that these people are out there supporting what we do, because it can feel very isolated, um, especially being in a sort of out of the way part of Scotland where there's not a lot happening. It's nice to know that what you're doing does have an effect and that it has a reach and that people are enjoying your output. And that's really crazy to know that you'd encountered it even in California. I wouldn't have known that it had that
Years
much of
ago, and I
reach.
had no
That's
idea what it was. I just assumed it was a band T-shirt, and I didn't
mhm.
blew it off. And only since we've
Yeah.
been talking recently that I went, "Oh my God, she wrote that!" Like, I really need to watch this movie, and I was blown away. And I thought it was interesting that uh, the female lead was from San Diego. She's
Yeah, well, she's from Texas actually,
oh
but she
oh
lives in California. Yeah,
yeah.
she lives in Los Angeles. Um, yeah, we've worked with Alexandra a few times. She's amazing. She's definitely an example of the benefits of leaving some room for someone to do what they're great at. Because in the original script, you know, the dance scenes weren't part of it, or you know, I would just say there's a dance, and knowing that she would come up with something incredible.
And that's amazing because I mean, did she reach out to you guys or did you reach out to her? Because that's thousands of miles away.
It's a strange story. So about 12 years ago now, maybe, I wrote a short story called Morgan M. Morganson's Date with Destiny. And it's a very weird, nonsense, rhymey, fantasy kind of story, not horror at all. So I posted this online on Joseph Gordon-Levitt's online
Oh,
production
hit
company.
record.
Yes. Um, and it got made into a short film with Joe and with Alexandra playing the other lead role in the short film. So that's how I got to know her. And we just really struck it off. Like, we're really great friends. And also, you know, we really have very similar creative aspirations. And so, yeah, it's because of that we got in touch with her and, you know, asked her to be part of Lord of Tears. And ever, you know, since then she's obviously been in The Black Gloves and The Devil's Machine as well. So she always just brings an incredible extra element to anything she's involved in.
That's great. So I guess as far as the writing for that goes, did you actually pull from mythology for the Moloch character? Is that where that initially came from?
Yeah, so I always like to take inspiration from mythology where I can, folklore, theology. So for Moloch, it's a combination of theology, like he actually features in the Bible, Moloch, and was sort of worshipped by the Carthaginians as well. But then I sort of tied that in with other mythology relating to owls. The Celtic cult of the head were supposedly worshippers of some kind of owl deity. So I sort of put two and two together and thought, well, what if this was Moloch that they were worshipping? So kind of marrying those two elements to create something that felt new, that had some depth to it, so that it's not just, you know, your stereotypical monster that you don't know where he's come from. I think it gives him more gravitas. It feels like there's something more to him than what you see, you know, that he's this ancient,
Right.
enduring
Kind of
god, not
someone
just a
on the
monster.
sidelines, kind of always on the periphery, looking in, which is there's just some great shots that you've used, I think, in Black Gloves too, of just maybe 500 yards away, and there's like a really creepy, what I call Tim Burton kind of trees that are like
Hmm.
this, and then you see
Gnarled, yeah.
shape, and I thought, okay, if Lord of Tears was a band, that would be the album cover.
I wish
I
there
mean,
was a Lord of Tears band. That'd be
it's
amazing.
such a great framed shot, with the light and the tree, and
Yeah.
and I think you guys, and I don't want to phrase this wrong, but I feel like you really lucked out with the prop head because it could have gone south so easily.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was going to ask if you are a fan of the writer H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we're actually working on a project inspired by his writing at the moment. So yeah,
So
we're
I
all
was
big
curious
fans.
because I noticed there's a little trait at least in the films that I saw, like I was saying, I've seen Lord of Tears, The Black Gloves, and The Unkindness of Ravens, that H.P. Lovecraft has. And this is no slag against you, but usually like
Okay.
on page 3 to 5 of any H.P. Lovecraft story or novel, the main character is always saying, "Am I losing my mind?" Especially
Yeah.
the guy, the actor in I'm just gonna take this off. It's like digging into my flesh now.
It's obviously deeply uncomfortable.
Ho ho ho.
Oh, Christmas
It
is
appears
over.
that he really does this thing where he's a really good actor, but he also has what I call a William Shatner quality, where at
Yeah.
certain points he's like this, and
The double take.
like, am
Yeah.
I going insane? Except for the part where he's teaching the class about Keats, because that would be really weird if he
That'd
did
be
that in
weird,
front of all those kids. Um, but yeah, I really wanted to point that out and say that that was like a huge compliment, that the writing kind of reminded me of H.P. Lovecraft. And I think I pointed out in a message, I think yesterday, that the in the Black Gloves, the woman who plays the governess really reminded me of Frau Bruckner from Young Frankenstein. Like she's
yeah.
just so intense. Like I know like your
Yeah.
villain has to be like, or your villain or your pseudo villain has to, come in and take the stage and take charge and put the hero in his place. But when she comes in, there was a couple of times, and this is nothing against you, where I was literally drinking something and she would come in and I would go because she
Good.
really comes in and just ah,
Yeah. And you
so
like
I didn't
she's
know
just
if that
like
was
that.
your
That's
writing
not acting.
or his directing, where it was like like maybe he took her to the side and he's like, all right, like you can be a bitch on wheels for your character, but I really want you to come in and then just like fucking destroy him.
Yeah.
And then she
Yeah,
comes
pretty
in
much.
because the other actress, playing the ballerina is just very, demure and, stuck in her own little world. And
Hmm.
the lead actor is, I thought his character was based on Sigmund Freud, but I could be wrong. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. But
Yep, yep.
but when she came in, there were like 2 or 3 times in the Black Gloves where I was like, literally, like, oh no, I'm just going to put my cup down, and then I'm just kind of going like this, like how the music kind of creeps in a horror film, and something's coming, and I was like, I'm not even afraid of the owl man. Like when this chick comes in, it's just going to be like. But I mean,
Yeah,
that's just a
yeah.
testament to you guys that you knew how to, for lack of a better term, just grab the audience by the throat and kind of use that character as kind of like a bell, kind of like
Hmm.
So I didn't know if there was part of that character based and like a comedic element or someone you may have known from when you were younger, because it felt like a real person, the character did, but it was really kind of like so close to being over the top.
Yeah. Well, I think with melodrama, you kind of have to go big or go home. If you do it by half measures, it's just gonna come across as insipid. Um, the character is actually based on, more than anything else, Mrs. Danvers from Rebecca,
Yeah,
um, where there is that like intense, sort of stern, strict vibe, but at the same time, it's also so strong that it's almost ridiculous. Um, but that, I mean, that comes so naturally to the actress Macarena Gomez. Like that is sort of what
it's good or
it's what
bad.
she's it's what she's known for.
Oh,
Like
really?
she has
Okay.
that effect just walking into a room as herself, you know.
I was just thinking like maybe on one of the days you guys broke for lunch or something and you walk down the street to a cafe and you're just ordering, coffee to go or something. And she goes up to the counter to get her drink. And then, the barista puts the cup on the counter and that woman is just like, thank you. And the lady's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty much. That's That's pretty much how it went.
I mean,
She's
she's probably
amazing
a
though. She's
sweetheart
amazing.
in real life, you
Oh,
know.
she's a total sweetheart, but she is also terrifying.
I mean,
She is
you
a
know,
formidable woman, but I love her. She's amazing. Like she's such a strong woman. She's such a character. Um, and she gives everything 1,000,000%. Like she was
oh yeah, yeah.
such a
Total,
pro.
total pro, I could tell. Um, so I think that you made The Unkindness of Ravens before The Black Gloves. Is that
Yeah.
true? Okay, so I watched things out of order, but I wanted to kind of get a different taste to a little bit of the filmmaking and the writing. And
Mhm.
I think I might have liked that the best of the three because it's so mythology based. It's
Mhm.
so one character kind of stuck in his
Yeah.
head. And here's a compliment for you. I thought that you used your Raven characters, your villains in black, your thugs, way better than J.J. Abrams used his Knights of Ren
Oh,
in the
thanks.
Star Wars movies. Because in that first recent Star Wars movie, they're like the Knights of Ren, and they have these evil characters in black with all these weapons, and you're like, and then two more movies of. So
Oh.
I was worried. I was
What a
watching. I'm
shame.
like, oh, the setup is so good with the guy playing the flute and walking on the hill in the distance. I was like, please don't suck. And it was great. I mean, you've done that
Yay,
before,
you.
right? You've seen movies where like there's some great
Oh
setup in
yeah.
the first act, and you're
Oh
watching
yeah.
it go like, oh, please don't suck.
I know. It's so much more disappointing when the concept is great and they don't live up to it, isn't it?
Yeah, that, and so what made you decide that that actor from your previous films was right for the lead? And also, was it based on anyone that you know's kind of PTSD experience in Afghanistan or Iraq?
So basically we really
Cheers, by the way.
um cheers.
Ah, she does have a glass.
I do.
I'm like, is she
Uh,
keeping it PG on purpose?
no. This is my second. Um, so yeah, he's a great guy to work with. Jamie Scott Gordon. Um, and
Was he
yeah,
the lead
he
in
just
and also in Black Gloves?
yeah, but very different
Oh,
character, right?
yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah. I'm
different.
like, I was watching it and I'm like, I didn't have time this morning to go through IMDb, but I was thinking looks really familiar, but it's the hair because
Yeah.
In Lord of Tears and in Unkindness of Ravens, he has this kind of like 1970s kind of
Yeah.
like Jeff Bridges vibe with the beard and
Hmm.
the hair, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I kind of get he's like he has that kind of guy who came back from like a mission that went south in the Marines or something, and then he comes back, and so that was great. And like, whose house is that? That it was like in the middle of fucking nowhere, and like these gorgeous like vistas with these beautiful fields and the mountains and
Hmm.
everything. Was that like a family estate or someone that you knew or like, here's our cabin?
I wish. No, it was just a holiday cottage basically that we rented for 2 weeks. And it was such a tiny crew for that one. That was quite difficult. There was basically five of us, including the lead actor, uh, just in that cottage for 2 weeks shooting this film. So it was quite a claustrophobic experience,
But
which I
that's
think probably
convenient though on such a
helped
huge
him.
level to just get up, make your breakfast, go over your shot list and run through the lines a few times, and then okay, go down the road. Okay, that's
Yeah.
break for coffee.
Yeah.
Because
No, it's
we
actually ideal
probably
because
literally did this, like, I mean, I don't know if this,
yeah,
but where you're filming and then the house is probably like right here, just out of
yeah.
frame, right?
Yeah, basically.
That's such a great trick. So I know that they always say, you know, pain is temporary, art is forever. So whatever you
Hmm.
suffered through, it clearly worked out. So
Yes, it was a lot of suffering, but also very rewarding because we knew what we were getting was good stuff that, felt authentic. Um, so I think it's probably my favorite of what we've done
Really?
too, actually. Yeah, even though it's a lot more probably lo-fi than some of the others.
Yeah, but I mean,
Um,
like, it was a huge step up from, not to slag off the earlier films because you have to grow. If you don't grow, you
mhm.
don't not going to continue to make movies.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but like the practical effects, the gore,
Hmm.
I'm sure somewhere you have a prop jar of eyeballs
Yes,
in
many,
your
many eyeballs.
basement or your attic, or just to frighten the kids on Halloween. Um, but yeah, that it was just really visceral, and I think I said to you also that if that film was made, or maybe one day you'll be lucky, remade in the United States, they would have picked such a lame title. It would have been
Yeah,
like Birds of Death, and then have like
yeah,
a bird. Or did you ever see that old Robert Carlyle movie, Ravenous?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's just like they would do something like Ravenous, and it's like,
Yeah, it would
but
have been crazy
that's
cheesy.
how they market that crap. Which I call, the lo-fi B movie stuff, where it's like they're never gonna get a distribution. But the thing is,
Hmm.
the filmmaking that you guys do is so far above like the average schlock that you'll see. And one article I read, and I can't remember which film it was attached to, maybe it was Black Gloves or Lord of Tears. I just kind of Googled something, and it was this is not you. This is the writer, the article writer, saying like, although Scotland has no long history of a film industry.
Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
does
oh,
not.
that's a hell of a preamble.
Yeah,
Like
it's
blah blah
harsh,
blah
but
blah
kind of true.
craptacular. Oh, we're now making movies. So
Who knew we could do that?
you knew. You have to know. Your imagination is so amazing that at some point, whether you're, I don't know, have you written stories that, or novels or things like that outside of screenwriting?
Yeah, well, we actually just very recently launched a publishing wing called Hex Arcana. So we've put out an anthology of short stories, which I wrote some, Laurie Brewster wrote some, our friend Tom Staunton wrote some. So that was our first sort of foray into creating books, which we also love. We also just recently put out a classic horror novel called Sound Was Horn.
And that was
But
a
yeah, it's definitely,
collaborative effort with two or three
uh,
people.
yeah, the first one, Book of Beastly Creatures, was an anthology. So it's, yeah, three writers, 18 stories, all original monsters.
That's great.
So that was a lot of fun, yeah. But it's definitely something I would like to do more of, because I've always enjoyed writing everything: short stories, poems, songs.
Oh yeah, I'm the
So
same way.
screenwriting is just one element, yeah.
Um, and I bring this up to all my writer friends, so I'll bring it up to you too. And since you work with creative people, maybe they're more used to it, but I'm sure you have friends and family that are not. They're more right brained or
Hmm.
academic, that are not so creative. But have you ever been in a situation where it's just, sitting in a cafe with some friends, or at home visiting family or something, and then you get that little, what I call like a little lightning bolt zygote of an idea, and it
Hmm.
lands, and you start doing, I don't know what I call it, writer face, when it's like you get that first germ of an idea, and you're looking across the table at someone, and all of a sudden you kind of just glass over your eyes, and you're just kind of sitting there listening to what they're saying, and you just start nodding like,
Not
and then your
not quite
cup kind
there.
of starts to go away from your mouth, and then you're like trying to still be engaged in what they're saying and nodding your
Yeah.
head, and then you're just frantically looking for a pen or a napkin, or your phone to take a note, and then
Hmm.
the other person on the other side of the table is just doing this,
What are you doing? What is this
like, can
strange
I
practice?
help you? And they're like, shh, 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 shh. And they're like, are you having a seizure? What are you doing? And they're like, I, time out. Are we playing a game? Time out. What do you like? I just and you write like 5 or 6 words, and you're just like, oh.
Thank God, it
Does that
didn't
ever
escape this
happen to you?
time.
The people that have no idea that, I mean, that they know that you're creative or that you're a writer, but they've never seen like an idea just land on you, and then you have to like get it out. You don't want to forget it.
Yeah, yeah. I think, I mean, I guess most of the people that I am around are creative people, even the ones who don't do it as a job. I think I just tend to gravitate towards them. So I think they can all kind of understand it. But
I would love
I
if
think
a
for
third person, and this probably won't ever happen unless you yourself post it on YouTube, but I would love if that happened and there would be like a fly on the wall third person on the other side of the table that just is like sitting there watching this happen to you, and then they just go,
she's
for
gone to the other
fuck's
place
sake,
now.
Sarah, just write it down, okay? So get on with our meal, and you're just like, I, I,
Well, I was talking about this recently with someone, and I think when you're a creative person in general, or but especially a writer or a maker of stories of any kind, there's always an element of being slightly removed from every situation. Like you're always observing as well as participating in life. Whenever something happens, there's always a part of you that's thinking, will this make a great story sometime? You're always watching stories unfold, and there's an element of feeling like you're not necessarily fully part of your own life and always sort of a voyeur of life.
I can relate 1,000%, and in fact, it's almost got me in trouble a couple of times because there's the expression, you need to be present in your own life,
Mm-hmm.
but as a writer or creative person, there is an element of people watching
Yeah.
that when we're by ourselves, we don't really realize that we're doing because it's a habit. And for me, it's not so much maybe I'm going to base a whole story around someone I see, in the distance or at a shopping center or at the supermarket or something, but it's just they'll catch your eye, and the next thing you know, you're just doing this. I
Yeah.
literally was at the store, oh my God, like maybe a month ago, and I had the shopping cart in front of me, and this guy walked by with a beard, but it was like shaved into like weird cube shapes, and he had like
Wow.
a fringe jacket, and then like he had like a cowboy hat on, like sideways, but it was like a foam cowboy hat, and
Amazing.
he was just like going up to an end display of like canned vegetables or something, and he was taking them off, and he was like mumbling to himself, and he was saying, "Not right yet, not right yet, not right yet."
Wow.
And I was sitting there, and thank God this woman like stopped me because I was literally doing this.
Yeah, that's not really socially acceptable.
Right. And then this woman came up to me and she literally like poked me on the shoulder and she was like, "Sir, sir,
Oh, no.
sir." And I was like, she's like, "Maybe we'll talk to a manager or something." Like, "Yes, let's do that."
Don't ruin the
Because he was
show.
kind of like making this whole show of it. And the thing is, I don't think,
Wow.
I mean, I don't know the guy, but I don't think he was coming off as someone that was having issues or something. At first I thought, oh, he's just like, oh, a performance artist and he wanted it and he's just trying to get attention, maybe a free handout or free coffee or something. But it's just one of those things that it
Hmm.
literally stops you in your tracks.
Yeah, like whatever his story is, there's a story there.
There's something where it's
Mm.
like maybe the cans have got to be in a certain shape so someone will get the signal, like you have to go in the store
Hmm.
and take them from a pyramid shape into like a cube.
Yeah,
That'll
yeah.
alert the other person and 4 aisles away, and they'll poke their head around and
Hmm.
they'll go like,
Yeah, because like maybe we're seeing someone who's crazy, but maybe there's some meaning there that we just don't understand.
and that happens in movies all the time, that
Hmm.
characters
Hmm.
go undercover and pretend to be mentally unstable to cause a distraction so that another character can go off and do or sneak in somewhere. So we've seen too many movies.
Yeah.
So
Probably.
let me ask. So you've got the fantasy film. That has that been finished and just you've got distribution ready to go? Is that coming out soon?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I think it's coming out any day now. I think it's been sent off. All our deliverables have been delivered. So it's getting ready to make its way around the world. I think
Oh, okay. It's
hopefully it should
on
get
DVD and on streaming.
yeah, pretty soon. I think it's getting a pretty wide release, thankfully. It should be on all the platforms,
Um,
UK and the US for sure, but also elsewhere. I'm not sure of a date yet, but I know it's in the next few weeks. So yeah,
do
that'll
you
be
guys
cool.
have premieres, or at least for cast and crew at somebody's house or local theater that you can at least show it on a screen?
Usually we would like all of our other films have usually premiered at Fright Fest, which is a big horror festival here in the UK. Um, but just because of COVID this time, it's not really happened for Dragon Knight, unfortunately. But there's still time. Hopefully, we're actually working on some more Dragon Knight films. So you never know, we might be able to
Make a
screen a trilogy at
trilogy.
some
I
point.
know that's a
That'd be
dirty
cool.
word, but you can make it maybe a trilogy. I mean, if the first one pans out, at least you're not doing the mistake that a lot of people that when they say things like, "We're going to make a 7 film series, but we'll see how the first one does." And
It's
the first
probably
one,
wise.
you know, and then
Oh
they're no
no.
longer making a 7 film series.
We're making
Um,
-1 films now.
I really do feel, and I haven't seen Dragon Knight obviously, but I do feel like incrementally there have been huge leaps and bounds the quality and um, I know when I was watching the Black Gloves, I thought like, oh okay, someone's been watching some Edgar Wright films. There are some really cool edit shots of just like a boot stepping next to a puddle that you probably would have thought of when you were doing Lord of Tears. When
Mhm.
you're thinking like, has there been an instance when you guys have had to go back and do pickup shots or reshoots when you put like a rough cut together and go, well, we didn't quite get that, or it'd be nice to extend this sequence.
Um, Very rarely, once we get to the edit stage, there'll very often be pickups that we do after the main bulk of the shoot, just because it makes sense to do like the smaller stuff once the main cast are gone. But usually once we get to the edit stage, we're pretty solid. Like Laurie and um, Michael Brewster and Gavin Robertson, who do our cinematography, are really really on the ball when it comes to knowing exactly what coverage we need. And Laurie has a very specific vision of the way he wants to tell a story visually. So he usually has that pretty much nailed. Like it would be very rare that we would feel like we're really missing something to the point where we need to reshoot or grab something else.
Um, I've been lucky to have this experience having worked on a few horror films. I don't know if you've been lucky enough to have this experience. It's something the older you get, the less you can actually do and get away with, which is to, if you're filming on location, to break for lunch, and it's what they call a walk away lunch as an actor, and then being and being told like, don't remove your makeup. We have to do, make sure we stick to the continuity. Don't change your clothes. Don't do anything. Just go down the street, go to the restaurant, get some lunch, and be back in an hour. And then you're able to walk in with a few of the other cast members that just got blood splatter or missing limbs or
Hmm.
tweaked eyeballs, and then just sit at a counter or a booth and just have the waiter or the waitress come over and be like, "Oh my God, are you guys okay?" Does that
Yeah.
happen? Have you been through that?
Yeah. Because obviously making horror movies, we always tend to have people in various states of being covered in blood and guts. And I remember when funny moment was when my mother came to visit for a week, and it was while we were shooting Ravens. And it was the day where we had the most messed up, like zombie soldier guys. But they all came back to my flat to get clean, like to shower afterwards. So it's just me and my mother in my flat drinking tea, and then this like stream of men, like topless, covered in gunk, covered in blood, eyes missing, just
I can
wanders in.
imagine like you just going out to get the mail and then like a neighbor just looking at like people just coming in with just stuff slopping off of them
Yeah.
and her just going like that and you need to go, oh love, it was a hell of a night.
Yeah. So yeah, she enjoyed that. But it's one of the best things about filmmaking is these surreal, crazy moments that you create, for yourself and everyone else. And I think when you see sort of non-film outsider people looking at what you do with that kind of wonder and excitement, it reminds
Yeah,
you
very
how lucky you
rarely.
are.
Yeah, I mean, I used to get that weird stuff, weird reactions when I was younger in Ohio, but here in LA, it's just another day. So people are
Oh
just
yeah,
do it.
it's the
You just
usual.
have to make sure it's like, okay, is someone really getting shot? Or, I mean, is 911 the emergency number in Scotland as well when you want to call the police or the
999. Yeah.
999? So I'm sure someone just slows their car down just enough when you're walking on the street, like 999
Uh-huh.
or movie. Okay.
Yeah. It's it's actually amazing how little attention people pay. Like if you are actually murdering someone, you feel like people
Yeah,
would
but
just
they
be
don't
like,
want
"Oh,
to
it
be
must just be a
involved,
movie. It's
right?
fine."
They don't want to,
Yeah.
they don't want to be an accessory or a witness. So they're
Yeah, they don't even really look at you. Yeah, they're just like, just pretend nothing's happening, everything's fine.
is that a real dog with its head missing? I don't want to fucking know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What am I
It's kind
gonna
of
eat
worrying.
here?
You kind of feel like if you were genuinely being murdered, no one would
What the
believe it.
hell? What's going on here? This is disgusting. But yeah, now there are so many people. I mean, just filming something in someone's backyard, and there's like an office building across the street. Every once in a while, you can kind of see somebody kind of, walking by,
Yeah, yeah,
like a Muppet or something walking by, and all of a sudden they're just like
yeah. Yeah.
with their hands on the glass, like, and then somebody's like, I love stuff like that because it's just everybody is always drawn to something that they don't expect out of the blue.
Hmm.
And then there's that kind of what you were saying, just that I don't know, jealousy or kind of curiousness of kind
Hmm.
of like that doggy at the window kind of thing where they're just
Yeah.
or the dog door where they're just kind of like they want to be part of it but they
They
can't, and so they're
desperately
just
want
like
to. Yeah, yeah.
like a little gopher, they're just like pining. They just want
Yeah.
to be part of
In Scotland, what you usually get is um the opening line is always, "I'm just going to be nosy." Just going
Yeah,
to be
but
nosy.
here it's like I don't want to be fucking rude and impose myself, but are you all making a movie?
Yeah, it's like, no, no, we're making
No, it's a
lunch.
murder cover up. You best get along.
Yeah.
So what's next for Hex Media? It sounds like you guys are really expanding now into the realm of publishing. Have you thought
Yeah.
about possibly doing um, a series, like a television series? Either like an
We're
anthology or like a sitcom or something, like a 10
yeah, I mean,
episode.
we'd be open to whatever, but at the moment, like our slate is really full with
Yeah,
features.
being tight knit in the small group, it's
Yeah, but who knows, long term, like we definitely want to do um more books because we all, literature was our first love. But at the moment, yeah, it's basically going to be all feature films. So we've got the Dragon Knight movies. There's another horror movie that we're going to be shooting pretty soon. Um, we're going to be doing another horror anthology. We did one a couple of years ago now for We Are Many, where we had filmmakers from all over the world direct segments, and we're going to do a sequel to that. So that's going to be our H.P. Lovecraft inspired project. So yeah, we're just
well, just
very, very, very,
pushing
very
on
busy.
then. So have you thought about outside of Scotland or doing some stuff in Ireland or the UK? I don't know how difficult it is to do internationally. I mean, clearly you have actors from other countries already working with
Mhm.
you. Um, I'm not going to imply that like the next film written by Sarah Daly, starring James McAvoy and Ewan McGregor.
Oh, that'd be
But I
nice. I mean, I
mean,
wouldn't say no.
5 years from now or less, who knows? I mean, you're really getting into festivals, you're really getting your name out there. People clearly think that you're managing a rock band.
I mean,
Oh,
that's the dream,
Lord,
right? It's
Lord
so
of
much cooler.
Tears. Have you heard Lord
I
of
wish I
Tears?
was.
It's fucking awesome. You should get this shirt. Um,
Like still metal.
yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, that was such a fluke thing that I saw that shirt and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, I love that.
You know, what is that? So
That's
just
actually
having it
the
that
dream for
way
me.
with the title clearly sold some t-shirts. So maybe that's going to fund, continue to fund your, I don't know what kind of, none of my business what your percentage of your merchandise is that goes back into your filmmaking, but I'm sure every little bit helps.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a very difficult industry, as everyone knows, and to even just try to sustain yourself, you have to do so many different things. Like you can't just expect to make your money from making films. You have to do everything. Um, so we've always tried to be imaginative, not just with our stories, but with how we can keep ourselves going, and maintain our independence, which is very important to us. But it's, at the end of the day, we just want to be able to sustainably keep making movies and keep making better ones.
And that makes me think too. So, do the two of you or your core crew, do you have day jobs? Do you reach out to financiers for extra help for the money to feed the cast and crew and everything like that? I mean, how do you, now that you're so many years down the line from starting to make features? I mean, there has to be some kind of extra source to kind of keep you going. And none of my business if you guys have kids or anything, but that is a reality for a lot of the people that you're going to be working with too.
Yeah. I mean, we're constantly sort of trying to adapt and grow and make sure that we've got the right balance of work and life, which is always a difficult thing. None of us at the moment have children, so that does, it makes things easier, because that's difficult. Like it's hard enough without them. I don't know how people do it that do. And like major respect to them.
I'll just say
Uh,
every day is an adventure.
yeah, I can imagine. I mean, anything is possible. If you really want to achieve something, you can, no matter what your situation is. But it's certainly easier, um, without dependence, because it's tough. But I mean, at the moment, there's a few of us working full time. I'm lucky enough that this is my main job, um, and the goal is just to always do the projects that we are passionate about, and to continue to be able to do what we love for a living. Really, at the end of the day, that's it. So however we need to adapt to fund these films, we'll do it. We've done it in all kinds of different ways, from Kickstarters to um, distribution deals to selling t-shirts and DVDs and books, and
Or doing
um,
acting or writing for other people's projects as long as they can pay, or
yeah, there's an element with that. We always want to be able to focus primarily on the projects that we're passionate about and that we want to do with the most creative control we possibly can. But sometimes there'll be someone else's project that you're interested in. It's something different. So it's a case of constantly, I think, reassessing what you're in it for, what your goals are, and trying to stay on the right path, trying to build something that feels fulfilling for everyone that's involved, everyone that works with us, and that's it's a constantly evolving thing.
yeah, every day is different, and there's going to,
Yep.
just as digital filmmaking was like a huge leap in terms of making life easier to go
Mhm.
remotely as long as you are smart enough to bring batteries and power cords.
Yep, yep.
I think that streaming has just really created a whole new avenue for people to get their work out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's difficult, but there's opportunities. There are ways now to get independent films financed and out there that there weren't before. Um, and I think as long as you are dependable and you can create content at a certain production level, then there are these avenues to make this a satisfying career.
And then advertising and making sure you give proper credit um, for the films is so paramount because I'm trying to remember. I think that for each of the three films of yours that I watched, um, I found independent distributors. I think maybe they were based in Scotland, maybe just the UK in general, but those independent companies, their parent outlet was Amazon Prime. And so I had to get the 7-day free trial subscription. And then I
Mhm,
was able to watch those local distributors through Amazon Prime. So I was
mhm.
able to watch them in the comfort of my own home. So it's
Yeah, I
great.
think most of them are on Amazon Prime at the moment. And I think they're most of them are on Google Play and iTunes and all those other places as well. So they're out there. We've been lucky that we've partnered with some really good distributors who, actually genuinely make the effort to get things out there. Um,
Well, I guess we've been at it for over an hour.
yeah.
I kind of wanted to just pick your brain and maybe ask you there will be like younger people probably watching this a little bit and laughing at our apple juice. No, just in general, what would you tell people looking to get into the film industry, whether it's Scotland or any other country? Um, any tips or trials and tribulations that you went through that now they don't have to go through because we were talking about with digital filmmaking, online filmmaking, and distribution. So
Mhm.
maybe a few do's and don'ts if you can think of some things.
Well, I would say that there's so many different paths that you can take um, to make it in the film industry, and it really depends on what you are looking to get out of it. Like, do you want to be a director who gets hired to do a project? Do you want to create your own projects? Do you want to be a writer that pairs up with a director and you make things together, or do you want to sell your scripts? Like, I think everyone is in this industry for different reasons and everyone enjoys different parts of it. So I think the sooner that you can figure out where you would like to fit within the industry and try to focus on the path to that goal, the less time you waste. And also, I would say it's difficult and it's going to take a few years. And the people who succeed are the people who persevere, even when it feels like all their friends are getting great jobs and money and cars and houses and families. If you can get through those few years where that feels really, really difficult and like you're really losing out and you're embarrassed to tell people what you do, then you will be one of the ones that makes it, because most people fall away because they can't bear those sacrifices. But if you know that it's what you want to do and you keep trying to do it, you will get there eventually in one form or another. But stay open-minded, be flexible, um, be persistent, be easy to work with, and work hard. And it's not impossible. I've managed to do it, even though I never really believed that I would be able to make this my full-time job. Um, so it's a doable dream.
That's great. I also try to tell people don't quit. Let the others around you quit because when
Yeah.
they quit, it makes it easier for you. It's just one less competition, one less writer that you're going up against, one less
Mhm.
actor you're going up against, and and on down the list. But perseverance, I think, is key. So I know you have a whole litany of social media outlets. So if you want to plug away Hex Media and your own personal websites and things, go ahead. I'll give you a few minutes there to rattle those off.
Sure. Yeah. Well, uh, I guess Instagram is Hex Horror. Um, Twitter is Hex Studios. I'm Sarah Daly 42 on most places. Um, we do have a website, but it's undergoing refurbishment at the moment, but it will be hexmedia.tv, and that's where you'll be able to buy all of our merchandise and DVDs directly from us. So those are the best places to find us. And our films, as I said, a lot of them are available on Amazon Prime. But if you do want to have your special collector's editions, then keep an eye on hexmedia.tv for signed copies, limited edition copies, just really
T-shirts of the
physical
rock band you
editions.
manage, yes.
Yes, T-shirts of a rock band that may or may not also be a movie.
I have to say too, because I looked at the Hex Media website and I thought, are they deliberately going for like a Stranger Things like 1980s retro vibe? Should I say anything? I'm gonna say something, but she's gonna deny it. So I'm just gonna put it out there that you were going for like a retro kind of 80s kind of.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything we do tends to be retro. We are not hip modern people. Like we like classic
Oh,
everything.
that's so
We
much
like,
better. It's so much better than
yeah.
being like, whatever the current hot trend is or something. But
Yeah.
um
And I mean, we like eras that are also not trendy. It's not just 80s. Like we like
like
40s, 50s, 60s, 70s.
when I was looking at it though, I thought like this looks like the film quality was actually from a VHS tape. Like that is kind of genius on a certain level. So
Yeah. I mean, we
because
always do great things and add
it's
grain.
like we were saying about things catching your eye, like not what I expected, and also it makes me think about it to bring it up. So if
Mhm.
it caught my eye and it stuck with me long enough to tell a few people, maybe they'll tell other people. So
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. So thanks.
well, is there anything else you wanted to add? I really enjoyed our talk.
Yeah, no, me too. That was great. Thank you. No, I'm good. I feel thoroughly satisfied by our chat.
Anyways, all right. Well, thank you so much for being on the
Thank
show. And
you.
this is
My
Sarah
pleasure.
Daly. The studio is Hex Media. There's a whole list. You can find her on IMDb as well. And there's just probably at least 10 credits or 12 credits on there. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for
And
having me.
I will be posting this within the day and probably tomorrow morning, my time, not your time. And we'll go from
Okay.
there and have a great weekend. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too. You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye. Take care.